The baby's screams tore through the VIP lounge at Incheon International Airport like a siren that wouldn't stop. Passengers waiting for their flights tried not to stare, but it was impossible to ignore. The sound was raw, desperate, the kind of cry that made every parent in the terminal wince with recognition and every non-parent grateful they didn't have to deal with it. Welcome to Seoul Africa Stories. Before we begin, take 1 second to subscribe. It truly helps this channel grow and allows us to bring you more powerful stories like this. Also, let us know where you are watching from MEMS. At the center of the chaos sat Choi Dae-sung, and he looked like a man at war with himself. His expensive Tom Ford suit was wrinkled, his normally slicked-back hair falling across his forehead in disheveled strands. Dark circles hung beneath his eyes like bruises. But it wasn't his exhaustion that made people nervous. It was the tattoos. They crawled up his neck in intricate patterns, traditional Korean irezumi work that spoke of a world most people only saw in movies. A blue dragon's tail curved just above his collar, its scales rendered in meticulous detail. When he shifted, trying once again to calm his 7-month-old daughter, the movement revealed more ink on his wrists, traditional clouds and waves peeking from beneath his cuffs. His knuckles bore Hanja characters that those familiar with Seoul's underworld would recognize immediately as markers of the Cheongryongpa, the Blue Dragon clan. Minji, his daughter, was inconsolable. Her tiny face had turned bright red from crying, her little fists clenched as she arched her back against her father's chest. Nothing worked. Not the bottle her father kept trying to offer. Not the pacifier, not the gentle rocking or the desperate shushing. She just screamed and screamed and screamed. Around Dae-sung, 6 men stood in formation, all wearing dark suits that did nothing to hide their dangerous nature. These weren't bodyguards hired from some security company. These were soldiers, clan members, men who had proven their loyalty through blood. Park Tae-won, Dae-sung's second-in-command, paced near the window. His bald head bore a scar that ran from his temple to his jaw and a dragon tattoo wrapped around his skull. His frustration was visible in every movement. "Boss," Tae-won said in Korean, his voice low and urgent. "We need to board in 30 minutes. The prosecutors have plainclothes officers watching the terminal. If we stay here much longer, they'll find an excuse to detain you." Dae-sung didn't respond. He was too focused on trying to calm his daughter, his jaw clenched so tight the muscles jumped. He had killed men with his bare hands. He had stared down rival gang leaders without flinching. He had built an empire through calculated violence and strategic ruthlessness. But he could not get his own daughter to stop crying. Kim Jung-ho, younger than the others and clearly uncomfortable with the situation, shifted his weight from foot to foot. "How long has she been like this?" he asked quietly. 3 hours, Dae-sung said, his voice flat and exhausted. "Since we left the compound." 3 hours. The other passengers in the VIP lounge had been subjected to 3 hours of non-stop infant screaming. Some had moved to other areas. Others sat with headphones on, volumes turned up, trying to block out the sound. A few shot sympathetic looks toward Dae-sung, recognizing the universal struggle of a parent with an upset child. Most just looked annoyed. Airport security had already approached twice, asking if everything was all right, their eyes lingering on the tattoos and the intimidating presence of Dae-sung's crew. Both times, Tae-won had intercepted them with carefully worded assurances that they were handling it, his English surprisingly good. But the third approach would likely involve more questions, possibly even intervention, and that was the last thing they needed. Dae-sung tried the bottle again. Premium formula, the most expensive brand available, specially prepared. Minji turned her head away violently, her screams intensifying. A thin line of formula dribbled down her chin. Her father wiped it away with a cloth, his movements gentle despite the clear frustration in his eyes. "Maybe if we walk," suggested another clan member, a man with a scarred lip and nervous energy. "We've been walking," Dae-sung snapped. "For 3 hours. Nothing changes." The past 2 weeks had been hell. After his wife Yuna's death 8 months ago, Dae-sung had hired the best nannies money could buy. The first one had lasted 4 days before she discovered exactly what kind of business Dae-sung ran and fled in terror. The second had made it a week before Minji's constant crying broke her. The third had been professional, experienced, highly recommended, but even she couldn't handle it. The fourth hadn't even left a resignation letter, just disappeared in the middle of the night. Now, Daesung was alone with a grieving infant who wouldn't eat properly, wouldn't sleep for more than an hour at a time, and seemed to cry every moment she was awake. The pediatrician had examined her thoroughly and found nothing physically wrong. She's healthy, the doctor had said in careful English. But she's grieving, Mr. Choi. Babies feel loss differently than adults, but they feel it just as deeply. She's looking for her mother. She's looking for that bond, that specific connection. Without it, she's lost. Those words had haunted Daesung for days. How do you explain death to a 7-month-old? How do you make an infant understand that her mother wasn't coming back? How do you fill a void that deep? Boss, the flight, Taewon said again, more urgently this time. I heard you the first time, Daesung growled. This trip to Los Angeles wasn't optional. A territorial dispute with the Los Angeles triads had reached a critical point. Daesung needed to negotiate in person, to show strength, to prevent what could easily escalate into a war that would cost millions and draw unwanted attention from law enforcement on both sides of the Pacific. But how was he supposed to negotiate anything when he couldn't even get his daughter to calm down for 5 minutes? Minji's cries had taken on a different quality now, more desperate, almost panicked. Her little hands grasped at her father's shirt, pulling, searching for something she couldn't find. Daesung felt his heart breaking. He had survived gang wars, assassination attempts, years in one of South Korea's most brutal prisons. But watching his daughter suffer like this, being completely unable to help her, was worse than any physical pain he'd ever endured. Sir? A female voice spoke in Korean. Airport security again, this time a senior officer with worry in her eyes. Is the child all right? Should we call medical services? Before Daesung could answer, Taewon stepped forward. She's fine, just fussy. We're managing. The security officer looked unconvinced. Her gaze swept over the group, taking in the tattoos, the hard faces, the barely concealed tension. Perhaps you should consider postponing your flight. The child seems very distressed. We'll be boarding soon, Taewon said firmly. Thank you for your concern. The security officer hesitated, clearly wanting to say more, but something in Taewon's expression made her reconsider. She nodded and stepped back, though she didn't leave the area. She spoke quietly into her radio, probably reporting the situation to her supervisors. We're drawing too much attention, Young-ho muttered. Daesung knew he was right. The last thing they needed was a confrontation with airport security that could lead to questioning, delays, or worse. The prosecutors watching them would love any excuse to dig deeper into his business. But what was he supposed to do? Leave Minji behind? Impossible. Force her onto a 13-hour flight while she screamed the entire time? That would be its own nightmare. He stood, trying once more to rock her, to find some rhythm that might soothe her. Minji just cried harder. Other passengers were definitely staring now, some with sympathy, others with irritation, a few with phones out, probably recording. Perfect. Video of a known crime boss struggling with his screaming baby would be all over social media within hours. Then, through Minji's cries, Daesung heard something else. Another child's voice, asking a question. He looked up and saw a little boy, maybe 5 years old, standing near the entrance to the VIP lounge with his mother and younger sister. The boy was staring at him with wide, curious eyes. The mother was black, American by the look of her clothing and manner. She wore jeans, comfortable sneakers, and a cardigan that had seen better days. Her natural hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she carried a diaper bag over one shoulder while holding her daughter's hand. The little girl couldn't have been more than 3, but it was the mother's face that made Daesung pause. She wasn't looking at him with fear or judgment or irritation. She was looking at Minji with something else entirely. Recognition, understanding, concern. Their eyes met across the lounge, and something passed between them, parent to parent, a shared understanding of helplessness in the face of a child's distress. The woman said something to her children, positioning them near a seating area, then started walking toward the VIP lounge entrance. Immediately, one of Daesung's men moved to intercept her. Han Soo-min, a massive enforcer with a shaved head and a brutal reputation, blocked her path. Private area, he said in heavily accented English. The woman didn't back away. I know, she said calmly, but I think I can help with the baby. Taewon appeared beside Han. You need to leave, ma'am. I'm a mother, the woman said, her voice firm but not aggressive. She gestured toward Minji, whose screams had reached a new pitch. I can hear what's wrong. That baby isn't sick. She's not hungry the way you think. She's grieving. She needs maternal comfort. Taewon's expression shifted slightly, surprise flickering across his scarred face. How do you know that? Because I've heard that exact cry before, from my own children. Daesung watched this exchange with growing interest. Something about this woman's certainty, her calm confidence in the face of his intimidating crew, made him curious and desperate. He was so desperate. He nodded once. Taewon saw the gesture and reluctantly stepped aside. Han did the same, though both men kept their eyes on the woman as she entered the VIP lounge. She approached slowly, non-threateningly, her hands visible. Up close, Daesung could see the exhaustion in her face, the way her shoulders carried the weight of someone used to struggling. But her eyes were kind, warm, the eyes of someone who genuinely cared. "Hi," she said softly. "My name is Maya. I'm a mother of two. Can I try to help?" Daesung studied her for a long moment. In his world, strangers were threats until proven otherwise. Trust was earned through years of loyalty, through blood, through actions that couldn't be faked. This woman was a complete stranger, appearing out of nowhere, asking to hold his daughter. Every instinct told him to say no, but Minji's screams told him something different. "You think you can help?" he asked, his English accented but clear. "I can try," Maya said. "May I hold her?" This was insane. Daesung had killed men for approaching his family uninvited. His men were tensed, ready to intervene at the slightest wrong move. Every security protocol he'd established over years of surviving in the criminal underworld screamed that this was a mistake. But he looked at Maya's eyes again, saw genuine concern there, genuine kindness. And he thought about the pediatrician's words about maternal bonds and connections. Slowly, carefully, he transferred Minji into Maya's arms. The baby's weight left his chest, and for a moment, Minji's screams intensified, her little hands reaching back toward her father. But then, Maya settled her against her own chest, adjusting her position with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this thousands of times. Maya began to sway gently, a subtle rocking motion that came from deep instinct. She hummed softly, a melody that Daesung didn't recognize, something that sounded old and sacred. Her hand patted Minji's back in a specific rhythm, and she positioned the baby so Minji could feel her heartbeat. "There you go, sweet girl," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. I know you miss her. I know it hurts." And then, impossibly, Minji's screams began to soften. The change wasn't immediate, but it was undeniable. Minji's desperate wails slowly transformed into softer cries, then into whimpers, then into small, hiccuping sounds as she pressed her face against Maya's chest. The baby's tiny fists, which had been clenched in distress, slowly relaxed. Her little body, which had been rigid with tension, began to melt into Maya's embrace. If this story is touching you already, please subscribe. Your support helps us keep sharing meaningful stories from Seoul to Africa and beyond. Daesung stared, unable to process what he was seeing. Around him, his men exchanged stunned glances. Taewon's mouth had actually fallen open slightly. Han looked like he'd just witnessed a miracle. Jungho whispered something in Korean that sounded like a prayer. Maya continued her gentle swaying, continued her soft humming. She seemed completely unaware of the effect she was having, focused entirely on the baby in her arms. Minji made small sounds, and Maya responded with quiet murmurs of comfort. "She's looking to nurse," Maya said quietly, glancing up at Daesung. "Not just for food, for comfort, for connection. It's instinctive. When babies are distressed, they seek their mother's breast. It's where they feel safest." Daesung's throat felt tight, but her mother is gone. "I know," Maya said, her voice filled with compassion. "And she knows too somehow. Babies understand loss differently than we do, but they feel it just as deeply." She adjusted Minji slightly, and the baby's eyes began to droop. "She's not just hungry for milk. She's hungry for what milk represents: maternal presence, safety, unconditional love, that specific bond." The little boy from before appeared at the entrance to the VIP lounge, his curiosity overcoming his shyness. "Mama?" he called out tentatively. "It's okay, baby. Come here," Maya said. The boy entered slowly, followed by the little girl. Both children stared at Minji with wide, curious eyes. Up close, Daesung could see the boy had intelligent eyes and a slightly protective stance in front of his younger sister. The girl had her thumb in her mouth, clutching a worn, stuffed animal. "Can I see the baby?" the little girl asked, her voice small and sweet. Maya crouched down carefully, keeping Minji secure against her chest. "Of course, sweetie. This is Minji. Can you say hi to her?" The little girl leaned forward, her face breaking into a shy smile. "Hi, baby." Minji's eyes, which had been heavy with exhaustion, suddenly opened wider. She looked at the little girl with curiosity, and then something magical happened. Minji smiled. It was small, just a tiny upturn of her lips, but it was real. The first genuine smile Daesung had seen on his daughter's face in 2 weeks. His chest constricted. He felt his eyes burning and had to look away for a moment, struggling to maintain his composure. Behind him, he heard Taewon clear his throat roughly. Even these hardened criminals, men who had seen and done terrible things, were moved by the sight of a baby finally finding comfort. "What's your name?" Daesung asked the little boy, his voice rougher than intended. The boy looked at him nervously, clearly intimidated by the tattooed man and his scary-looking crew. He moved closer to his mother. "It's okay, Marcus," Maya said gently. "You can answer." "Marcus," the boy said quietly. "And that's my sister Zoe." "Nice to meet you, Marcus and Zoe," Daesung said, trying to soften his expression. "I'm Daesung. This is my daughter, Minji." Maya stood back up, still swaying gently. Minji's eyes were closing again, her breathing evening out. The baby was actually falling asleep. In a stranger's arms, after 3 hours of nonstop screaming. "How did you do that?" Daesung asked, genuine wonder in his voice. Maya smiled softly. "Experience, instinct, and I'm still nursing my youngest." She nodded toward Zoe. "Babies can sense that. They can sense maternal energy, the hormones, the pheromones we release. She feels safe with me because I remind her of what she's lost, not replacing it, but echoing it enough to give her comfort." "You're still nursing?" Taewon asked, his English suddenly very formal. "The little one?" "Yes," Maya said. "Zoe just turned 3, but we're doing extended breastfeeding. It's actually very common in many cultures, though not always in America." Daesung watched his daughter's face, now peaceful in sleep. Her tiny mouth was slightly open, her breathing deep and even. He couldn't remember the last time she'd looked this calm. "How long are you staying?" Maya asked him suddenly. The question caught him off guard. "Staying? In Seoul? Or are you traveling somewhere?" "Los Angeles," Daesung said. "We have a flight in 20 minutes. Maya's expression shifted to concern. 20 minutes? With her this distressed, that flight is going to be rough. 13 hours of pressure changes, confined space, and she's already exhausted. She needs rest before traveling." Maya looked down at Minji, then back at him. Something in her expression made him think she understood more than she was saying. She'd seen the tattoos, the dangerous men, the tension. She wasn't stupid. "Then you need to keep her calm during the flight," Maya said. "She needs to feel that maternal presence consistently. If you put her down, she'll start crying again immediately." "We don't have anyone who can provide that," Taesung said, frustration bleeding into his voice. "4 nannies have quit. We can't find anyone willing to work for us." Maya bit her lip, clearly thinking. Minji stirred slightly in her arms, making a small sound, and Maya immediately adjusted her hold, patting the baby's back. Minji settled again. "What if?" Maya started, then stopped. "No, that's crazy." "What?" Daesung asked. "I was going to say, what if I came with you, just for the flight, to help keep her calm? But that's insane. I don't even know you, and I have my own flight to catch back to Atlanta, and this is just..." She trailed off, shaking her head. Daesung stared at her. An idea was forming in his mind, audacious and possibly brilliant, or completely insane. He couldn't tell which. "What if you did come with us?" he said slowly. "Not just for the flight. What if you came to work for me? Help Minji, be what she needs." Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. Name your price." "I don't have a price. I'm not for sale." "Everyone has a price," Daesung said, and immediately regretted it when he saw her expression harden. "Not everyone," Maya said coldly. "Some of us have principles." "I didn't mean to offend," Daesung said quickly. He was used to negotiating with criminals, with people who understood that everything was transactional. This woman was different. "I just meant, what would it take? What do you need? Money for your children's education? Housing? Medical care? I can provide all of that." "You can't just throw money at people and expect them to uproot their entire lives," Maya said. "I'm not throwing money. I'm offering an opportunity. You saw what just happened. My daughter responded to you in a way she hasn't responded to anyone since her mother died. She needs you." "She needs a mother," Maya corrected. "She needs consistency and love and someone who will be there every day. That's not a job you can hire someone to do." "Then don't think of it as a job," Daesung said, his mind racing. "Think of it as helping a child who desperately needs it. Think of it as making sure your own children have every advantage in life. I'll pay you $200,000 a year. I'll cover all expenses for you and your children. Education, healthcare, housing, everything. Maya's eyes widened. $200,000? Yes. That's insane. That's what my daughter's well-being is worth to me. Maya looked down at Minji, still sleeping peacefully in her arms. Daesung could see the conflict on her face. Temptation warring with caution. Maternal instinct pulling against common sense. I don't even know you, Maya said quietly. I don't know anything about your life, your business, what you do. Those tattoos, these men, the way everyone seems nervous around you, it's pretty clear you're not a regular businessman. No, Daesung admitted. I'm not. Are you dangerous? Yes. At least he was honest. Maya appreciated that, even if the answer terrified her. Would my children be in danger if I agreed to this? No, Daesung said firmly. I would protect them with my life. Anyone who works for me, anyone who becomes part of my household is under my protection. That protection is absolute. Under your protection from who? From what? Daesung met her eyes steadily. From people like me. The honesty of that answer hit Maya hard. He wasn't pretending to be something he wasn't. He was a criminal, clearly, probably a serious one given the deference his men showed him and the quality of his suit, despite the tattoos that marked him as someone from the streets. But he was also a grieving father who loved his daughter desperately. I need to think, Maya said. We board in 15 minutes, Taewon reminded them. Then I need to think fast, Maya said. She walked away from the group, still holding Minji, moving toward where Marcus and Zoe waited. Her mind was spinning. $200,000 a year. That was more than 5 times what she made working 3 jobs in Atlanta. That was private school for Marcus. That was the ear surgery Zoe needed. That was never worrying about rent or utilities or whether she could afford groceries again. But it was also moving to a foreign country to work for a criminal. It was putting her children in proximity to danger. It was trusting a complete stranger with their safety. Marcus looked up at her with worried eyes. Mama, what's happening? Who are those men? They're people who need help, baby, Maya said. They look scary. I know, but sometimes scary-looking people need help too. Are we going home soon? I miss Aunt Keisha. Maya thought about home, about their tiny 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where gunshots weren't uncommon, about the landlord who'd just given them an eviction notice for being 2 weeks late on rent, about working the night shift at the nursing home, then cleaning offices on weekends, then driving for a ride-share service whenever her sister could watch the kids. About being so exhausted, she sometimes fell asleep standing up. About Marcus falling behind in reading because she couldn't afford tutoring. About Zoe's chronic ear infections that needed surgery they couldn't pay for. She looked down at Minji, peaceful in her arms. This baby needed her, really needed her, and maybe, just maybe, this was the universe offering her a way out of the struggle that had defined her life since her husband left. But was she really considering this? Moving to Korea? Working for a mafia boss? She pulled out her phone and FaceTimed her sister. Keisha answered on the 3rd ring, her face filling the screen. Girl, where are you? I thought your flight was supposed to land tonight. Keisha, something happened. Something crazy. Maya explained everything in quick, hushed tones. The crying baby, the tattooed father, the job offer. Keisha's expression cycled through disbelief, concern, and finally alarm. Maya, are you out of your damn mind? That man is obviously Korean mafia or something. You cannot move your children into a crime lord's house. I know it sounds insane. It doesn't sound insane. It is insane. Girl, come home right now. We'll figure out the eviction. We'll figure out the bills. We always do. By what? By me working myself to death? By watching Marcus struggle in that terrible school? By ignoring Zoe's medical needs because we can't afford them? Better struggling at home than dead in Korea. He said he'd protect us. And you believe him? Maya, you met this man 10 minutes ago. I know, but Keisha, you should see this baby. She needs help, real help, and I can provide it. And the money, Keisha, it's $200,000 a year. Do you understand what that means? That's everything we've ever needed. Keisha was quiet for a long moment. What does your gut tell you? Maya looked at Minji's sleeping face. She thought about how the baby had immediately calmed in her arms. She thought about Daesung's eyes when he'd admitted he was dangerous, but promised to protect them. She thought about the desperation of a father who would offer a stranger a fortune just to help his grieving daughter. My gut says this baby needs me. Maya said quietly. And maybe, for once in my life, I should take a risk. Maya. He said 3 days. Come to Los Angeles with them for 3 days, see how it goes. If I hate it, he flies us home first class with $10,000 for my time. If it works, we negotiate a real contract. 3 days? 3 days. What's the worst that could happen in 3 days? Keisha laughed bitterly. Don't ever ask that question. That's when the universe decides to show you exactly what the worst is. I have to try, Keisha. When am I ever going to get another chance like this? Her sister sighed deeply. Promise me something. Promise me if anything feels wrong, anything at all, you grab those babies and you run. You call me, you call the embassy, you do whatever you have to do to get out. Promise me. I promise. And Maya, you better call me every single day. Every single day. You hear me? I will. I love you. I love you too. And I think you're crazy, but I also get it. I get being tired of struggling. They hung up. Maya took a deep breath and walked back to where Daesung waited. Minji was still asleep, her little hand curled against Maya's chest. 3 days, Maya said. Daesung's eyes lit up with hope. 3 days? I'll come to Los Angeles with you for 3 days. We see how Minji does with me there. We see how this works. After 3 days, if I want to go home, you fly us back to Atlanta first class with $10,000 for my time. And if you stay, then we negotiate a real contract with lawyers, with protections for me and my children, with everything in writing. Daesung nodded immediately. Agreed. Taewon, make the arrangements. Taewon was already on his phone, speaking rapidly in Korean. Within minutes, he looked up and nodded. Done. 4 additional first-class seats on our flight. Maya Thompson, Marcus Thompson, age 5, and Zoe Thompson, age 3. How did you get their information so fast? Maya asked, suddenly nervous again. We're very efficient, Taewon said with a slight smile. That efficiency should have scared her. Instead, Maya just held Minji closer and thought about what she was about to do. She was getting on a plane with Korean gangsters. She was flying to Los Angeles with a man she'd met 20 minutes ago. She was risking everything on the hope that this desperate father was telling the truth about protecting them. Marcus tugged on her sleeve. Mama, are we going on a plane with these people? Yes, baby. Why? Because we're going to help them, and they're going to help us. Okay, Marcus said simply, in the way children do when they trust their parent completely. That trust terrified Maya more than anything else. She was responsible for these 2 precious lives. She couldn't afford to be wrong about this. But Minji stirred in her arms, made a small, contented sound, and settled back into sleep. And Maya thought maybe, just maybe, she was making the right choice. The boarding process was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. Regular passengers filed into the terminal through the standard gates, shuffling through lines, showing boarding passes, cramming carry-ons into overhead compartments. Daesung's group bypassed all of that entirely. They were escorted through a private entrance by airline staff who treated them with the kind of deference usually reserved for heads of state. No security checks, no waiting, just smooth, seamless movement from the VIP lounge directly onto the aircraft before anyone else boarded. Besties, if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Drop your country or city. We love seeing our global family. Maya found herself in a first-class pod that was bigger than her bathroom at home. The seat reclined into a full bed. There was a television screen, a menu of gourmet meals, amenity kits in leather cases. Marcus and Zoe were in the pod next to hers, their eyes wide with wonder as a flight attendant showed them how everything worked. They'd never been on a plane before, let alone in first class. Daesung sat across the aisle from Maya, watching as she settled Minji into her lap. The baby had woken briefly during the boarding process, but hadn't cried, just looked around with curious eyes before nuzzling back against Maya's chest. She's never been this calm, Daesung said quietly, not since Yuna died. Tell me about her, Maya said. About your wife. Daesung's expression shifted, pain flickering across his features before he could hide it. For a moment, Maya thought he wouldn't answer. Men like him probably didn't share their feelings easily. But then he spoke, his voice low and rough. We met when we were 19. It was arranged by our families. In my world, marriages are often strategic alliances between clans. But Yuna, she was different. She didn't want the life I could give her. She wanted a normal life, a quiet life. She wanted to be a teacher. But she married you anyway? Her family left her no choice. But I promised her I would try to be worthy of her. I promised I would protect her, give her everything she wanted. He paused, his jaw clenching. I failed. You didn't fail, Maya said gently. What happened to her wasn't your fault. She died giving birth to my daughter. How is that not my fault? Medical complications happen. It's tragic, but it's not about fault. Daesung was quiet for a long moment. The doctors said there was bleeding they couldn't control. Emergency C-section. Minji survived. Yuna didn't. She never even got to hold our daughter. Never got to hear her cry. She just bled out on that table while I stood there, useless. The raw pain in his voice made Maya's heart ache. She understood loss differently than he did. Her ex-husband had left by choice, walking away from his family without looking back. But grief was grief, whether it came from death or abandonment. Minji will know her mother through you, Maya said. Through the stories you tell, the love you show. She'll know Yuna through how much her father loved her mother. What if that's not enough? It has to be. It's all any of us can do. The plane began to taxi. Flight attendants moved through the cabin, checking seatbelts, making sure everything was secure. Minji stirred but didn't fuss. Maya adjusted her hold, and the baby settled immediately. As the plane lifted off, Marcus pressed his face to the window, watching Seoul disappear beneath them. Zoe had already fallen asleep, exhausted from the long day. Maya felt the weight of what she'd agreed to settling over her like a heavy blanket. She was really doing this. She was flying to Los Angeles with a Korean Mafia boss to help care for his grieving infant daughter. Why did you say yes? Daesung asked, as if reading her mind. Maya considered the question. Honestly, because I'm tired. I'm tired of struggling, tired of working 3 jobs and still not being able to pay rent. I'm tired of watching my son fall behind in school because I can't afford tutoring. I'm tired of knowing my daughter needs surgery we can't pay for, and because that baby in my arms needs help, and I can give it to her. So it's about the money. It's about survival, Maya corrected. Money is just the tool for survival. Don't make it sound cheap when you've probably never had to choose between feeding your child and paying for electricity. Daesung nodded slowly. You're right. I grew up poor, but I haven't been poor in many years. I forgot what that desperation feels like. You grew up poor? In Busan. Bad neighborhood, worse prospects. My father was a dock worker who drank too much. My mother cleaned houses. I joined the Cheongryongpa when I was 15 because it was the only way to eat regularly. He touched the tattoo on his neck unconsciously. Everything I have now, I built with blood and violence. I'm not proud of that, but I'm not ashamed either. It was survival, like you said. Maya studied him with new understanding. This wasn't some pampered crime lord born into power. This was someone who'd clawed his way up from nothing, who understood struggle intimately. How did you meet your wife if you were in the gang life? She asked. Her father was a high-ranking member of a allied clan in Seoul. The marriage was meant to strengthen ties between Busan and Seoul operations. But Yuna, she had this light about her. She saw past the tattoos and the reputation. She saw me, the person underneath. She made me want to be better. And were you better? Daesung smiled sadly. I tried. I reduced the violence, focused more on legitimate business investments. Yuna wanted children, wanted a normal family life. I was building that for her. And then she died, and everything I'd built felt meaningless. Minji made a small sound, and both adults looked down at her. The baby's eyes were open, watching Maya's face with that intense focus infants have. She has her mother's eyes, Daesung said softly. They're beautiful. Yuna used to sing to her. Even before Minji was born, she would sing to my stomach, old Korean lullabies her grandmother taught her. Minji would move when she heard the songs, kick and turn. Yuna said our daughter was already dancing. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. The image of a pregnant woman singing to her unborn baby, having no idea she wouldn't survive to meet her child, was almost unbearably sad. Do you know the songs? Maya asked. Some of them. But my voice, it's not like Yuna's was. Minji cries when I try to sing. Maybe she just needs time to adjust to your voice. Or maybe we can find recordings so she can hear her mother's songs even if Yuna can't sing them herself anymore. Daesung looked at Maya with something like wonder. I never thought of that. We'll figure it out together, Maya said, then realized what she'd implied. Together. As if she'd already decided to stay beyond 3 days. The flight attendant appeared with warm towels and menus. Daesung ordered for both of them, something in Korean that Maya didn't understand. The attendant smiled and disappeared. I ordered the bulgogi for you, Daesung explained. It's beef, very good, and some rice dishes, vegetables. For your children, I ordered them something mild, easy for young ones. Thank you. You should eat. Minji seems content. Let me hold her while you have your meal. Maya hesitated. Every time Minji had been separated from her over the past hour, the baby had fussed. But Daesung was her father. He needed to learn how to comfort his own daughter. Okay, but let's do it slowly. Stay close so she can see both of us. They managed the transfer carefully. Minji's face scrunched up immediately, and small whimpers started. But Daesung copied Maya's swaying motion, and Maya kept her hand on Minji's back, and gradually the baby calmed. Not completely peaceful like she was with Maya, but not screaming either. Good, Maya encouraged. See? She just needs to feel secure. Keep that gentle movement. Let her hear your heartbeat. Daesung followed her instructions, and Maya watched as father and daughter found a tentative rhythm together. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. The food arrived, and it was exceptional. Maya couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten a meal she hadn't cooked herself, let alone something this elegant. Marcus devoured his chicken and rice, his eyes still glued to the window. Zoe woke up long enough to eat some noodles before falling back asleep. Your children are well behaved, Taewon commented from the row behind them. He'd been silent for most of the flight, but now he leaned forward slightly. My sister has 3 kids. They never stop screaming on planes. They're good kids, Maya said. They've been through a lot, but they're strong. Like their mother, Daewon observed. Maya didn't know how to respond to that, so she focused on her meal. But the comment stuck with her. Was she strong? She'd never thought of herself that way. She'd just done what she had to do to survive, to keep her children safe and fed. That wasn't strength. That was just life. After the meal, Maya took Minji back. The baby had started fussing again, and it was clear she wasn't ready to be away from Maya for long periods yet. Maya settled her against her chest and felt Minji immediately relax. I need to nurse Zoe soon, Maya said quietly to Daesung. She usually feeds before sleep, and with the time change and travel, her schedule is all confused. Of course, do what you need to do. Maya woke Zoe gently and arranged her cardigan for privacy. Zoe latched on sleepily, and Minji, still in Maya's other arm, watched with curious eyes. The baby made small sounds, clearly recognizing what was happening, and her little mouth moved instinctively. She wants to nurse, Maya said quietly. Daesung looked conflicted. But you're not. I mean, she's not your. I know, but I'm still producing milk for Zoe, and Minji is clearly seeking that comfort. It might help her. Maya paused. If you're uncomfortable with it, I understand. It's your daughter, your decision. Daesung was quiet for a long moment. Maya could see the war playing out on his face. Cultural considerations, personal feelings, desperation for anything that might help his daughter. Would it be safe for her? He asked finally. Yes, I'm healthy. I've been nursing Zoe without any issues. And honestly, it might be exactly what Minji needs right now. Not just the nutrition, but the comfort, the bonding. Then do it, please. After Zoe finished and fell back asleep, Maya adjusted Minji's position. The baby needed no encouragement. She latched on immediately, her little eyes closing in contentment as she finally got what she'd been searching for. The comfort of nursing, the security of maternal closeness, the primal satisfaction of that bond. Daesung watched with an expression Maya couldn't quite read. Gratitude, certainly, but also something like grief, watching a stranger provide for his daughter what his wife should have been there to give. Thank you, he said, his voice rough. Thank you for doing this. She's just a baby who needs help, Maya said softly. Any mother would do the same. No, Daesung said firmly. Not any mother. 4 nannies refused. Dozens of women I approached wanted nothing to do with us once they understood who I was. You saw the tattoos, the men, the danger, and you chose to help anyway. That's not just any mother. That's exceptional. Maya didn't feel exceptional. She felt terrified and hopeful and completely out of her depth. But Minji was nursing peacefully, and Marcus was sleeping against the window, and Zoe was curled up in her seat, and for the first time in years, Maya wasn't worried about money or bills or where their next meal would come from. Maybe that was enough for now. The flight stretched on, 13 hours of flying over the Pacific Ocean. Maya dozed intermittently, waking whenever Minji stirred. She nursed the baby twice more during the flight, and each time Minji settled immediately, content and peaceful, in a way Daesung said he hadn't seen in weeks. Daesung spent much of the flight working on his laptop, occasionally taking phone calls in Korean that sounded tense and important. Tae-won and the other men remained alert, professional, clearly used to traveling with their boss. Other first-class passengers gave them a wide berth, sensing something dangerous about the group, even if they couldn't articulate what. As they began their descent into Los Angeles, Maya looked out the window at the sprawling city below. Somewhere down there was the life she'd agreed to try for 3 days. A mansion in the Hollywood Hills, Daesung had mentioned. Security, armed guards, a world completely foreign to everything she knew. "Are you nervous?" Daesung asked. "Terrified," Maya admitted. "Don't be. I meant what I said about protection. You and your children will be safe. Safe from external threats, maybe. But what about the life itself? What am I bringing my kids into?" "A better future," Daesung said simply. "Better schools, better healthcare, better opportunities. Isn't that what every parent wants?" "At what cost, though?" "That's what the next 3 days will help you decide." The plane landed smoothly. The same VIP treatment that had expedited their boarding now expedited their exit. They were off the plane and through customs before regular passengers had even started deplaning. Black SUVs waited on the tarmac, engines running. "This is very illegal," Maya muttered as they were driven directly across the runway toward a private exit. "This is very expensive," Taewon corrected with a slight smile. "There's a difference." The drive to the Hollywood Hills took 40 minutes through Los Angeles traffic. Maya watched the city pass by through tinted windows, Marcus and Zoe pressed against the glass with wonder. They'd never been to California. They'd barely been outside of Georgia. The mansion appeared suddenly as they wound up into the hills, a modern architectural masterpiece of glass and steel perched on the hillside with views of the entire city. High walls surrounded the property, topped with cameras. A guard station sat at the gate, occupied by 2 men who nodded respectfully as their vehicle passed. "This is a safe house," Daesung explained. "We maintain several properties in Los Angeles for business purposes. This one is the most secure." "It's beautiful," Maya said, and it was. But it was also clearly a fortress. Inside the mansion was even more impressive. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, art that probably cost more than Maya's car. Staff appeared immediately, taking luggage, offering refreshments. A woman in her 50s approached and spoke to Daesung in rapid Korean. He responded, then turned to Maya. "Mrs. Kim will show you to your rooms. You have the entire east wing. 3 bedrooms, private bathroom, sitting area. Whatever you need, just ask her." The east wing was bigger than Maya's entire apartment building. Marcus and Zoe each got their own bedroom, decorated neutrally but expensively. Maya's room had a king-size bed, an ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub, and windows that overlooked the city lights. "Mama, is this real?" Marcus asked, his voice full of awe. "I think so, baby." "Are we rich now?" "No, honey, we're just visiting. Remember, 3 days." But even as she said it, Maya wondered if she could really walk away from this after 3 days. Not because of the luxury, but because of the baby sleeping in her arms. The baby who needed her. The baby who had finally stopped crying. Maya barely slept that first night. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet, the unfamiliar luxury pressing in on her senses. Marcus and Zoe had fallen asleep almost instantly, exhaustion winning over excitement. But Maya lay awake listening to every sound. The soft hum of the security system, footsteps in distant hallways, the occasional murmur of voices in Korean drifting up from somewhere below. Minji slept curled against Maya's chest, one tiny fist clutching the fabric of her shirt like an anchor. Every time Maya shifted even slightly, the baby stirred, letting out a small sound of protest until Maya stilled again. "You're okay," Maya whispered. "I've got you." She wasn't sure who she was trying to convince, the baby or herself. At some point near dawn, Maya must have drifted off. When she woke, sunlight flooded the room through the glass walls, bathing everything in warm gold. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then she saw the city stretching endlessly below, the unfamiliar skyline, and reality rushed back in. 3 days. Just 3 days. Minji was awake, staring up at her with wide, curious eyes. When Maya smiled, the baby smiled back, a gummy, full-face grin that made Maya's chest ache. "Well, good morning to you too," Maya murmured. A soft knock sounded at the door. "Miss Thompson?" Mrs. Kim's voice. "Breakfast is ready whenever you like." Maya looked down at Minji, then toward the door. "Thank you. We'll be down shortly." She got dressed carefully, moving slowly so as not to disturb the baby. Everything in the room felt untouched, pristine, like it belonged in a magazine rather than a real family. Maya dressed in jeans and a simple top, refusing the designer clothes neatly laid out in the closet. Luxury was fine, but she needed to feel like herself. Marcus padded into her room, rubbing his eyes. Mama, is today Disneyland? Maya smiled faintly. Not today, baby. But this place looks like a movie house. Zoe toddled in behind him, clutching her stuffed bunny. Baby? She's awake, Maya said. But be gentle. Zoe leaned in and pressed her forehead against Minji's gently. Minji responded with a delighted squeal. Maya felt something twist inside her, a sense of inevitability she didn't want to acknowledge yet. Day 1. Breakfast was served on a terrace overlooking the city. The table was long, immaculate, set with dishes Maya had only ever seen on cooking shows. Fresh fruit, eggs made to order, pastries still warm, Korean side dishes neatly arranged. Daesung stood near the railing, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in clipped Korean. He looked different in daylight. Still intimidating, still tattooed and powerful, but softer. Less like a shadow creature and more like a man carrying too much weight. He ended the call and turned when he noticed Maya approaching. Did you sleep? He asked. A little, Maya said honestly. And Minji? She slept through the night, Maya said. That's a big deal. Daesung exhaled slowly, relief flickering across his face. She hasn't done that since before. He stepped closer, hesitant. May I hold her? Maya nodded. Let's do it slowly. She transferred Minji into his arms, keeping her hand on the baby's back. Minji fussed for a moment, then settled when Daesung began swaying instinctively, copying Maya's movements from the plane. You're learning, Maya said quietly. I watch you, he replied. I notice everything you do. They ate breakfast together, awkward but peaceful. Marcus asked questions about everything. Zoe fed bits of banana to Minji, giggling when the baby grabbed her fingers. It looked normal. That realization scared Maya more than the guns and guards ever could. The day passed in fragments. A pediatrician arrived mid-morning, discreet and respectful. She examined Minji carefully, her demeanor shifting from clinical curiosity to quiet amazement. She's calmer, the doctor said. Her vitals are better. Her weight, it's stabilizing. Daesung looked at Maya like she'd performed actual magic. I didn't do anything special, Maya said. I just listened to her. The doctor nodded. That's exactly what she needed. Daesung had meetings throughout the day. Men arriving in black cars, conversations held behind closed doors, tension thickening the air whenever unfamiliar faces appeared. Maya stayed in the East Wing with the children, guarded but left alone. Mrs. Kim brought snacks. Toys appeared as if by magic. A nanny hovered nearby but kept her distance, clearly instructed not to interfere. Late in the afternoon, Daesung joined them in the sitting room. Minji was on a blanket between Marcus and Zoe, babbling happily. She laughs now, he said quietly. She feels safe, Maya replied. He studied her for a long moment. Do you still plan to leave after 3 days? Maya didn't answer right away. I don't know yet. He nodded, accepting that. That night, after the children were asleep, Maya found herself on the terrace again. Daesung joined her, 2 cups of tea in his hands. For you, he said, handing her one. Thank you. They stood side by side, city lights glittering below. You could disappear. Maya said suddenly, with all this power, all this money, why stay in this life? Daesung's jaw tightened. Because leaving doesn't erase consequences. I have enemies, responsibilities. If I walk away, others suffer. Like your daughter. Yes, he said softly, especially her. Maya looked out at the city. I won't raise a child in violence. I know, he said, and I wouldn't ask you to. But neither of them said what hung unspoken between them, that violence had a way of finding people whether they invited it or not. Day 2, Minji thrived. She ate better, slept longer, laughed more. She clung to Maya constantly, crying whenever Maya left the room, calming instantly the moment she returned. Daesung watched it all with a mixture of gratitude and quiet dread. She's bonding to you, he said. Yes, Maya said gently. That's normal. And when you leave? Maya didn't answer. Marcus and Zoe explored the house like it was a wonderland. Tutors arrived for Marcus, turning learning into games. Zoe's ears were examined by a specialist who spoke gently and promised solutions Maya had been told were optional back home. Optional because they were poor. That night, Maya cried alone in the bathroom, grief and relief tangling painfully in her chest. Day 3. The third day began strangely quiet. No visitors, no meetings. Taewon was tense, speaking into his phone more than usual. Maya noticed. Is something wrong? Just business, Taewon said. but his hand never strayed far from his weapon. That night, Maya put the children to bed early. Minji nursed longer than usual, clinging tightly. "You're extra cuddly tonight," Maya whispered. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the world exploded. Glass shattered somewhere below. An alarm screamed to life. Shouts echoed through the mansion. Maya was on her feet instantly. Gunshots. Real gunshots. Her heart slammed against her ribs as training she didn't know she had took over. "Marcus," she whispered urgently. "Zoe, wake up, now." The children were crying before she finished speaking. She scooped Minji up, wrapping her in a blanket, grabbed Zoe with one arm, Marcus with the other. "Bathroom," she whispered. "Now." They barely made it inside before more shots rang out, closer this time. Maya slammed the door and locked it, dragging the children into the bathtub, pulling the heavy shower curtain around them. Marcus was shaking violently. "Mama, I know," she whispered fiercely. "I know. Cover your ears. Don't move." Minji screamed. Maya pressed her close, rocking desperately, humming through her fear. Outside, chaos, shouting in Korean, more gunfire, the sound of bodies hitting the floor. Zoe sobbed silently, her face buried in Maya's shoulder. Maya had never felt terror like this, not the slow, grinding fear of poverty, but sharp, immediate life-or-death panic. Minutes stretched like hours. Then footsteps, heavy, fast. The door burst open. Maya screamed. "Stop! It's me!" Daesung, blood streaked his shirt. His eyes were wild. "It's over," he said hoarsely. "You're safe." Safe. The word felt meaningless in a room that smelled like gunpowder and fear. Maya shook uncontrollably as Daesung knelt in front of her, his hands gentle, reverent. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry." She couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face as adrenaline drained from her body. She held her children tighter. "I can't do this," she whispered finally. "I can't raise my kids in a war zone." Daesung closed his eyes. "I know," he said. "I'll take you to the airport in the morning." Morning came quietly, almost cruelly so. Sunlight crept into the east wing as if nothing violent had happened hours earlier. The birds outside sang. The city below glittered innocently. But inside the mansion, the air was heavy with aftermath. The metallic scent of blood, the low murmur of cleanup crews, the unspoken understanding that something irreversible had occurred. Maya hadn't slept. She sat on the edge of the bed fully dressed, Minji curled against her chest, nursing lazily. Marcus and Zoe slept fitfully beside her, exhaustion finally winning over fear. Zoe's bunny lay abandoned on the floor where she dropped it during the chaos. Maya stared at the wall, her hands still trembling. This wasn't a life. This wasn't survival. This was danger dressed in silk. A soft knock came at the door. "Maya," Daesung said quietly from the other side, "we're leaving in 30 minutes. She didn't answer. He waited. When he finally entered, he looked older. The blood was gone, his clothes changed, but his eyes carried the weight of everything he couldn't undo. "I've arranged everything," he said. "First class. Direct to Atlanta. Your sister will be waiting." Maya nodded. "Thank you." Silence stretched between them, thick and painful. "I failed you," he said. "I promised safety." "You tried," Maya replied, "but trying isn't enough when bullets start flying." He flinched at that, accepting the truth of it. Minji finished nursing and fell asleep against Maya's chest. When Maya stood, the baby stirred and whimpered, instinctively clinging to her shirt. Daesung watched, his chest tightening. "She won't understand," he said softly. "She's bonded to you." Maya swallowed hard. "She'll adapt. Babies do. They have to." But even as she said it, her voice betrayed her. The airport buzzed with life, blissfully unaware of the decisions unraveling inside one small group. Daesung's men moved efficiently, clearing paths, handling logistics. Everything was smooth, too smooth, as if money could insulate pain. Maya clutched Zoe's hand while Marcus walked close to her side, unusually quiet. Minji was in Daesung's arms now, and she was not okay. The baby screamed, not the unfocused cry from before, but something sharper, more desperate. She reached for Maya with frantic little hands, her face contorted in panic. Maya's heart shattered. "It's okay," Maya whispered instinctively, stepping forward. Daesung stepped back. "If you take her now," he said hoarsely, "she won't let go again." Minji screamed louder. Other passengers stared. Phones came out. A mother nearby winced in sympathy. Maya's body screamed at her to take the baby back. Every instinct demanded it, but she forced herself to stop. "This is goodbye," she said, her voice barely holding together. Daesung knelt so Minji was at Maya's eye level. "Mama will always love you," he whispered to his daughter. "But this is where you stay." Minji screamed his name, not words, just sound, a raw cry of protest that tore through Maya's chest. Mama, Marcus whispered, tears slipping down his cheeks. Why is the baby crying like that? Because she doesn't understand yet, Maya said, her own tears blurring her vision. And neither do we. Daesung stood, turning away sharply. Maya took 10 steps. Each one felt like walking through fire. By the 10th step, she stopped. Her entire body went still. Her children turned back toward her, confused. Maya closed her eyes. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about comfort. This was about responsibility, the kind you don't choose, the kind that chooses you. She turned around. Wait? The word cut through the terminal like a blade. Daesung froze. Maya walked back slowly, deliberately. I'm not leaving like this, she said. Not without terms. Hope flickered in his eyes, cautious and fragile. My children come first, Maya continued, always. Their safety is non-negotiable. If anything like last night ever happens again, we leave immediately. He nodded. Agreed. I need legal protection. Contracts, visas, autonomy. I am not your employee in name only. I have authority over Minji's care. Yes. And you, she said, meeting his eyes. You don't get to hide behind your men anymore. You show up. You parent. You try to be better than the life you built. Daesung swallowed hard. I swear it. Maya stepped forward and gently took Minji from his arms. The baby calmed instantly, her cries dissolving into soft hiccups as she buried her face against Maya's chest. The contrast was devastating. Maya exhaled shakily. Okay, she said, then let's try this, for real. Daesung let out a breath that sounded like a prayer. As they walked together toward the exit, Maya glanced back at him. You should know, she added dryly, you're about to have a very opinionated black woman in your house. For the first time since Yuna's death, Daesung smiled. Real, unguarded, human. 6 months later, the Seoul compound looked different. Still guarded, still formidable, but quieter, softer. Minji toddled across the garden, laughing as Zoe chased her gently. Marcus sat nearby, reading aloud from a book in careful Korean, his accent improving every day. Maya watched from the porch, a cup of tea in her hands. Behind her, Daesung stood in the doorway, no suit, no weapon, just a father watching his daughter thrive. She laughed now. She slept. She ate. She lived. Marcus attended a private international school. Zoe's surgery had been a success. No more infections, no more pain. And Daesung, he changed. Not overnight, not perfectly, but meaningfully. Violent operations were scaled back. Legitimate businesses expanded. Bloodshed was no longer the first solution. One evening, Maya sat nursing Zoe while Minji played at her feet. Daesung paused in the doorway, watching the quiet domestic scene like it was sacred. You saved us, he said softly. Maya shook her head. No, you chose to change. I just held the baby, he smiled. Sometimes a stranger's kindness can save us all. Sometimes love comes from the most unexpected places. Thank you for watching Soul Africa Stories. Please subscribe to support this channel and help us bring you more unforgettable stories. And don't forget, comment where you're watching from. See you in the next story.